This is the 2015 Victory Hammer 8-ball, and this was my first time riding a Victory motorcycle, and I learned a lot about Victories this day. They had a demo ride day, kind of went over and checked it out. This is the Victory Hammer 8-ball, and you can see there's a cowl that sits over the passenger seat. There actually is a passenger seat on this. You just pop off that cowl, and there's a little passenger seat there. But really cool bike. I really think a really cool looking bike. I really had a fun time riding this bike too. But learned a lot about them. You know, I mean, I didn't realize that Victories all basically have the same engine. It's 106 cubic inches, which I think is roughly about a 1700 cc motor. You know, it felt really great. But one of the things that they really told you about before you rode the bike was, hey, be mindful of that back tire. You know, you got this real big fat 250 millimeter back tire, and so you're going to have to push it a little more when you're turning. And you can see here we're just taking off on this group ride. Now watch this turn. Oh, I don't know if you could tell right there. I leaned over like a little too far to the left. Here, let's do that in slow motion. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was going down a little too far. And so I think I was just kind of super sensitive to the fact that I've got this big old tire, and they told me I'm really going to have a harder time with the turning.
Wow. Okay, so it's got a lot of power here. I found that I could go a little bit more into first gear than I'm used to. Feels kind of similar to mine. Pegs aren't that as forward as the V-Rod. I've sat on a V-Rod. I've never ridden a V-Rod. But the pegs are not as forward. Let's see here. Nice that it tells you what gear you're in. Let's see here. Let's see here. That turn though, that turn kind of caught me a little bit off guard. So you see, look, you can really get up there before you have to, before you have to shift. That's one thing that I noticed. You can really kind of get up there. It's got a lot of power. Feels really good. Nice bike. Well, we shall see. I want to wait till we get onto some of the turns, because man, that first turn right there kind of took me a little bit off guard. But so far so good. Handlebar position, very comfortable, very comfortable. I mean, so far feels really nice. I'm in third gear right now, and I'm going about 40 miles an hour. I don't feel like I need to shift. I guess there's a tack on here too. I don't see it. They told me that there was a tachometer. Feels good though. I like it. You know, feels comfortable. If anything, feels very comfortable. We shall see in terms of the ability. Yeah, it feels okay. Yeah, so far it feels good, you know? Pegs feel like they're in a good position. It's very upright, smooth, it's not too loud. Similar to mine. I'm actually surprised it's a little more similar. It's what I like about it too. I mean, this is first impression, is that the instrument panel is right here. It's high up, so you can really see the instrument panel. That's one thing that I noticed and that I like. seems to, it shifts kind of hard. Like it kind of clunks down in. But maybe that's how it's supposed to shift, you know? I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's just how it's supposed to shift. I do like the instrument panel nice and high up though, like that, because you could really see it. It's nice and visible. That's one thing I like about mine too, is that I've got that instrument panel that's nice and high up. So, but yeah, I'm liking. I mean, pretty cool. So far, so good. I like it. I mean, it's probably not as nimble, maybe. I mean, because of that big old rear tire. But I mean, at least on these big sweeping turns, which you're mostly going to ride the bike on, I mean, it feels good. You know?
So let's start off with the cons from my perspective. I mean, the whole shifting piece. I mean, it was precise. It felt exact, but it still had this real loud clunk to it. And I don't know, that was something that was just noticeably loud. It just, you could really absolutely notice it. I mean, on the positive side, I guess you really know when you're shifting. You're like, oh my goodness, clunk, clunk, so you know that you're shifting gears. I think it was a little more noticeable when you're downshifting, to be honest, but it was it had a clunk to it. It wasn't what I was used to, if anything. On the on that instrument panel there, you see we've got the speedometer, which is big and easy to read. It's high up, it's real easy to see. But that whole little digital display that's on the bottom, it really didn't do much for me. I mean, so again, supposedly this thing had a tachometer on there, and the salesperson was the one who pointed it out to me, but I don't think my tachometer was on. I think it was set to the digital clock. And I'm assuming that you could toggle through tachometer, digital clock, whatever. But on the digital display itself, it also told you what gear you were in. And at first I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. It tells you what gear you're in. But to be honest, I stopped looking at it because I found that it was confusing to me. It was confusing me is what it was doing, because while it showed you what gear you were in, every time you pulled in the clutch, it showed kind of these blank lines, and so you didn't know what gear you were in. And you're not always looking at that display. So if you're riding around and you pull in the clutch and then you look at it, you're like, uh-oh, well, hey, what gear am I in? If I shift up, well, what gear will I go to? If I shift down, what gear will I go to? It wasn't helpful in that sense. And so I stopped looking at it. It actually was a little bit distracting for me. And beyond that, I mean, there were a lot of pros. So let me go through some of the pros with the bike. I love the gearing of the bike, on one hand, I'm saying that a con is the shifting, but I mean the way they have it geared, and I don't know if I'm saying that exactly right, but the way that I could really I didn't have to shift constantly. Like I could really feel like I could get it up to a very good, decent speed and then shift and then get it up to another decent speed. A lot of the time I was just riding around in third gear on the bike. And, that's different than mine. I mean, usually when I get up to cruising speed, around 40 miles an hour, I'm usually kind of getting into fourth gear on my bike. This bike, the third gear was it felt comfortable to be right there. And again, not even having a tachometer to see, because again, you don't really need that. I like the ability to go into sixth gear if needed. I was not able to get this into sixth gear because we just didn't go that fast. It felt nice though to have that option there if you're on the highway and the speed limit is up, that you really could get it up into sixth gear. I felt that it had the power that I needed. It wasn't, overly powerful. I didn't feel like it was unwieldy or anything like that. In fact, to be totally honest with you, mine's an 1100 cc. This one is about a 1700 cc. And I didn't notice a whole lot in terms of difference of power. And, I think both bikes, weigh probably right around the same, 600-700 pounds. And I don't know. I mean, maybe in other riding situations I'd really notice it, but I didn't notice sort of extra power. And I didn't notice anything with that big fat tire either. And, you know, that it didn't pose a problem for me. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, another con with the bike, it doesn't have ABS. And here's a perfect example. You see, we're going to be coming up here and watch these two ladies in front of me. They actually lock up the rear tires. Yeah, see, they locked them up just a little bit there and then kind of went through that red. I mean, there is no ABS. I know ABS is a little controversial if people like it or not. I've never ridden a bike with ABS. I've just heard that ABS is, you know, a real positive safety feature that the newer bikes have. This one doesn't have that. But I didn't have any issues with the big fat rear tire. Again, we didn't go on any big twisty roads, so I don't know how difficult it would be. I thought it was very easy to handle, to be quite honest. It felt very grounded, steady, easy to handle. I didn't have any problems with that 250 millimeter back tire. In fact, I thought it looked really cool on the bike. The riding position was comfortable. Again, the speedometer is high up, easy to see. The foot pegs were not way up in front. They were in a very comfortable position. The stock exhaust was actually decent. So, I mean, overall, I really liked it. There are a lot of pluses with it, and the looks of the bike. I love the looks of this bike. I think it looks awesome. I think it looks better than the Harley V-Rod, which some people compare this bike to. And you know, I'm not saying a V-Rod is a bad bike. I'd pick up a V-Rod in a minute. But I really love the look of this bike, and you know, it's all blacked out. It's got that nice big fat tire in the back and the front tire and everything else. Look great on the bike too. So anyway, go check it out, the 2015 Victory Hammer 8-ball.
You okay? You alright? Yeah. Saw you lock up the rear tire there. No, that was you too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw the smoke off of yours too. Yeah.
It didn't feel like it.
Really? Yeah, the rears on both of your tires, both hers and yours, both locked up. Or at least the smoke came off there, the burnt rubber did. Yeah, there you go.